Hey Ryan, welcome to the Profit and Grit Show. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being here. I'm really excited to talk with you.
Thank you for having me. Honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, so I'd love to start out, share with me a little for the folks that don't know you, which would surprise me, but there may be a couple. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? And then maybe on a personal note, something.
Yeah, I'm Ryan Fenn. I am the CEO and founder of a company called Chirp, chirp.com with two eyes. We automate follow-up to help home service businesses ensure maximum conversion rate on their leads. I'm married to Lonnie for 17 years, and I have four beautiful kids. And they just started school the other day, so I am podcasting from home today because nobody's here.
Hasn't been that way for the last couple months, has it?
Yeah, yeah. So.
That's awesome. Hey, so where I'd love to start in terms of learning about you and just your journey. I believe when you first start your first business you started, you were 16. I believe you dropped out of high school. You had a baby on the way, had something like $500. Take me back to that point. Like, what were you doing? What was your plan? What was your vision?
There's a little gap in the narrative there. I
Yeah,
gotta clear up.
please.
I dropped out of high school at 16, but I started my first business that was successful at 26. So there's a gap there.
Got it.
When my first child was on the way, I did lots of things in that 10 years. I sold cars. I sold anything you could think of. I went on a 2-year mission for my church to the Philippines. And learned a second language there. So there's a gap there, but at 26, when my first child was about to be born, what was just born, that's when like the fire really lit, of staying committed to something because at that point, it's no longer just about me and my wife who could, we could make it work for us, pretty easily. But once you have that kid, it's like go time, right? So I started my first business. It was a windshield repair business. So rock flies up, puts a little crack in your windshield. We sealed those up so they don't spread any further. You don't have to replace your whole windshield. I was actually working for a company that did it, and it was great for like 2 months. I'm working for this guy and just going, hey, this is cool. I can feed my family and I can be thinking about like what entrepreneurial journey I want to go down. And then I found out he was doing like shady stuff with the customer's information that I was collecting. And I immediately my heart sank because, it's like I was feeding my family, And but I wasn't gonna do it. I wasn't gonna keep doing it with him doing that. So I quit and I had about $500 that I had saved up from that. And I bought a windshield repair kit and I started my own windshield repair business. The problem was at the time is I didn't have the lead source that he had because he had a deal with a local car wash and cars are coming in there all day. Hundreds of cars are coming in, and that was a traffic source, right? And I didn't have that. And so I just started going door to door. That was my first way to get deals. And it's funny, it worked. We were able to go door to door and get windshield repairs. We'd just knock on the door and we'd say, hi, my name is Ryan. We do windshield repair. Do you have any chips in your windshield you need fixed? And sure enough, people would go, hey, you know what? I do have one. And then it was like game on. So that's how we started. And then I can keep going on that story, but that's really, that's the beginning of it all. So
Yeah. So wow, $500. You started the windshield repair. Now I do remember a little side story. I actually did that for a short while,
did you?
and I did.
It's a
And
good business.
a buddy got me into it, and I registered a domain. It was San Jose Glass Repair. I live in San
Yeah.
Jose, California, and
Yeah.
I didn't know this at the time. I wasn't that smart, but I was getting like tons of calls because San Jose Glass Repair. It sounded very official, and people almost like thought like I was like part of
Oh,
the
yeah.
city or something.
Yeah.
So I was getting all these calls all the time. And I also got on this insurance list. And so I had a ton of business. The only problem is I was horrible at it. And I don't want to say half, but I'd say like 1 out of 10 I do. I used to have a friend that was an expert at it. He'd come out and help me fix it because I didn't quite leave it clean enough. And
Right.
every so
Right.
often he'd support me. And I finally sold the business to him. And that was during my college year. So that was actually interesting. And then I think it was a company called Safelite, if I remember
Yep.
correctly.
It's fine. Yeah.
Didn't they they kind of take over everything or something? Was it
They're
changed?
certainly a presence, and they are all over the place. But they had plenty of shops where we were. But you know, it's one of those things. You can either go out. They wait for business, right? They advertise and they wait for people to pull in. We were going out and getting it, and so yeah, that's a testament to the fact that competition doesn't matter. You shouldn't be thinking about competition.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We were able to
You,
grow into a lot of locations and did great with plenty of safe lights in the area. So,
you know, I had a guy on my podcast. In fact, he's in this week's episode, Lenny Gray, and his whole thing is about door-to-door sales.
yeah.
And the conversation I had with him, one conversation was, you know, door-to-door sales is kind of scary. Like it
Oh
really,
yeah.
it's intimidating. It says a lot about you, like for you to, I mean, was it because you had a young family and you're like, your back's against the wall and you got to kind of make it work, and that's why you did that? Or did you have past experience in that? I mean, what made you decide to go door-to-door sales as a way to get it rolling?
Well, you know, I had sold stuff, never door to door, but I had sold stuff my whole, you know, ever since I had dropped out of high school. So I was, you know, selling cars and different things, and I've been blessed with a lack of self-awareness, I guess, or like the ability to be embarrassed. I tend to be out there quite a bit. So it was natural for me, and I get that it is a difficult thing. Um, you know, we talked before we got on the podcast a little bit about the mantra, and we'll get more into that. But part of what I, you know, believe and do is that we have abilities beyond what we really understand. And so when we kind of have the approach of I hope this works, I think it'll work, we're really discrediting who we really are and the ability we have to create. And so I look at things as it's going to work because I will make it work because I have that power within me to make things work. And so once you have that sort of confidence, there's no failure. It doesn't exist because you're a divine being and you have the ability to make things happen as long as you actually believe that. So
I love that. Would you say, as we wrap up this segment, would you say that's the one takeaway from this is you control your own destiny is what I'm kind of taking from that. And that's how maybe for the listeners out in the audience who are business owners should think about things when they're trying to grow their business or scale their business, that they control the environment. Would that be fair?
100%. The entrepreneur, the person that, if you know what the word means, it means one who undertakes, one who takes on this creative responsibility, right? And you have to you have to shift your mindset into this. Yeah, yes, I will just make it work. And it's a funny thing. I've had multiple times along the journey where that's been reinforced, but one in particular was when I was in sort of a doubtful stage in the early days of Chirp, and I bumped into a guy who had built a very big software company, a multi-billion dollar software company. And he agreed to get on a call with me, and I was talking to him and he said, "Well, yeah, it's gonna work." And I'm like, "Well, like I don't know the competition, there's this and that, and it's hard." And he goes, "Yeah, but you are behind it and you have the ability to make it work and therefore it can't fail." And that really like pushed me back into like reality of like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, cool, just go. you know and he
Yeah.
said entrepreneurs just make things happen and it doesn't matter what's going on.
It's
So
funny how when someone says something like that to you, especially if you respect the where they're
yeah,
coming from, it
yeah.
like there's so many things people have said to me that have stuck with me, even like 30 years ago, that just stick with me to this day when I approach them because a presence on me.
It's embarrassing sometimes because I've had conversations with many very very wealthy people, billionaires, 100 million, in the hundreds of millions of
Sure.
dollars. I was talking with another one, and he's a billionaire, and he was asking me about some process for actually for Chirp early on, and I said, "Oh, I don't think that's possible to build it like that." And he goes, What did you just say? Not possible?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "How old are you?" And I was like, He's like, haven't you learned yet that that impossible is not a word? Like, and this is coming from a billionaire, so it's like you have to. It's funny. These people are crazy. You know, they appear crazy, but that's the whole idea. Is you're supposed to be crazy. You're
Yeah.
supposed to just get rid of logic and all reason and say no. Impossible is absolutely possible. So, anyways,
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. That's a great takeaway. Hey,
yeah.
so you're doing the windshield repair business. I
Yep.
feel like I've already used up my one research error, so I hope I don't have
Oh
any
no,
more
no, no.
errors.
Yeah, it's totally fine. Yeah.
You're doing the windshield repair business. How, at what point do you go, this is bigger than just windshield repair. I think there's an opportunity here. And I think to me, this is like the birth of Chirp.
One more gap,
Sure.
but yes, yeah.
Okay.
So from there, I've always loved digital marketing, and I always wanted, I'm always inspired by, people that do really great things, and there's a lot of weird stuff on the internet, of course, but the internet really is a powerful tool, and I've always loved internet marketing, and I've always thought, and before I did that, I was dabbling in affiliate marketing and trying different things, and I got the idea to because we had grown into about 9 locations. We were now working out of gas stations and
Wow.
car washes and dealerships. So we went from door to door, and then I got the idea to be in a gas station because I was like, man, cars are coming into the gas station all day. I'll wash their windshield as a courtesy, and then if they have a chip, I'll offer. So it's like digital. It's funny. It's like you think of digital marketing, people visiting the website, and you're like, shoot, people are coming into the gas station all day. All I got to do is hook them, and the hook was washing the windshield. Hey, let me wash your windshield for you today. Thanks for coming in, and that was enough to be able to pitch them windshield repair, and we would get like 15 repairs out of a gas station in a day, which is like $1,000. So it's like
Wow.
awesome. And so we were in all these locations, we're doing great. And I thought to go big, to go like nationwide or worldwide even, how do I just keep getting more gas stations? And that wasn't really realistic because it is by nature not extremely scalable. There's a lot of management and stuff that would have, so it's not extremely scalable, but it's a great like starter business.
Sure.
And but I thought, man, there's a lot of people that would probably benefit from this. What if I started a digital course, how to grow a profitable windshield repair business? And so I started doing videos out of I had this tiny little 2-bedroom house that my wife and I bought for $130,000 we had 2 kids at this point. And I had a Mac Mini, and I started doing PowerPoint presentations and recording them. I had to figure out how to screen record, and like it was really hard to do at the time. And I started making videos on how to start your own windshield repair business, how to approach a gas station, what to say to customers as they come in, all the pitch, all that stuff. And I put that together, and I started selling that, and I started selling it through ads on local classified ads, Craigslist, doing all this stuff. And then I started posting ads on Facebook as well, but the problem I was having with Facebook is I was getting leads for very cheap. I was getting leads for like a dollar a lead for an opt-in. But these are like really top of funnel leads, right? Just brand new to the idea, the concept. And so I had to figure out how to take them through a funnel to get them primed to buy. And I learned that if I texted the leads very quickly and sent them a link to a video, that was the hook, kind of like the gas station washing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and got them to then pay attention. So I went from text message, so they would submit their form. A text would go out and it'd say, "Hey, it's Ryan. Thank you so much for your interest in starting a windshield repair business. Here's a quick 2-minute video." They'd watch the 2-minute video, and that was just me saying, "Hey, windshield repair, this, that. It's a great business. I'd love for you to watch my webinar." And so now I go from 2-minute video to 45-minute pre-recorded webinar, and then invite them to schedule a call. So that was the funnel that took them through from who are you to shut up and take my money. That's like the journey, right?
Right.
And that process, we automated it all the way through to the booked call. And so all we were doing all day, my brother and I, we were getting on calls with people who had gone through that funnel and booked the call. And by the time they were on there, it was just a matter of we knew they wanted to do it because they went through all this, like the video, the 45-minute webinars, like don't book a call if you're not interested, like trying to really weed out as many
Right,
as we
right.
could. And we made like $2 million selling that course.
Wow. Wow.
And we found that the most important part, there's two parts. There's the initial contact, you have to be very quick. If they submit their information, we've got to text them in like a less than a minute, right? And then if they don't consume those two videos, the 2 minute and the 45, we've got to follow up consistently. And we would drip text messages on them with testimonial videos of people that did the course, right? So we did five or six drip messages over 2 weeks. And they would all point right back to that 2 minute video. So they'd watch the testimonial and then it would say, watch this 2 minute video, watch this 2 minute video, and then they would go right back into the funnel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So those two parts were key: speed to lead, the immediate contact, and then consistent follow up to get the most out of the leads. And we were spending, I think we spent $250,000 on ads, but ultimately that brought us close to $2 million in
I,
sales. So
I got a couple questions for you.
yeah, go for it.
One, kind of a silly question, but I'm just curious. When you were doing the gas stations, were you giving like the guy working that day a piece of the action? You didn't have a formal agreement with gas stations, did you? How did that work that they allowed you to, wipe windows for their
Oh yeah,
customers?
we would approach the owners of the gas station and we'd say, we want to do this for you. Some of them would let us, they just go for it. We like that we have somebody out there. Because one of the problems that gas stations have is that there's no presence out there and it can create like they just don't have anybody watching that area. And so it's just a blind spot in their business.
Yep.
So some of them are like, hey, we like having somebody out there just, being there, and
Yeah.
it can stop somebody from doing something shady or doing something stupid. And so some of them are just like, just be out there. And then some wanted a percentage, and we'd pay them like $5. We get paid $65 per chip, so we'd pay them like $5
Got it.
per
Okay.
repair.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. Good to kind of understand that. And then, were you doing the windshield repair as this $2 million of revenue started to manifest in the courses, or did you sell that, or how did that work out?
My really good friend who was working one of our dealerships, once the course sales started to take off,
Hmm.
I offered to let him take over that business,
Sure.
and it's actually still operational today.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. And,
Yeah.
and so what I'm getting from this now, just getting real crystal clear for me in terms of Chirp. So you start to understand speed to lead and that follow up are gold. And I also would argue the testimonial showing the
Sure.
belief that you were doing such a great job and giving social proof is probably a big part too. And so somehow, how does this go into where does Chirp come into this? Because I see this funnel, you're getting all this expertise.
Yeah.
How does Chirp, and then particularly, I'm just curious, you're really niched, I believe, in predominantly home services, right? Is it
Yep.
trades or would you say home services?
Trades, home services.
Trades. Okay.
Yeah.
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 Okay. How did that all play out?
Yeah, so that's another like trenches in the trenches story. So I have this idea for this software, right? Okay, I want to take this process and I want to put it all into one place where people can come. Because I figured, hey, if it works for me, it'll probably work for other businesses. And so this was a much larger undertaking to engineer a software. At the time, it's becoming much more easier to build software now, but back then it was. This was 7 years ago, so it's not before AI and before anything. So I'm like, dang, I want to do this, but I'm in Utah, and here in Utah, there's a lot of big tech companies. It's called Silicon Slopes. It's a part, it's part of the Silicon Valley deal, and so there's some major, Adobe's here, some Qualtrics, which is a $9 billion company. They're here. So anyway, so I'm looking at these companies going like, holy cow, I'm over here doing a couple million. These guys are doing a couple million a day, right? And uh, and so I'm thinking this is a big undertaking. So I go to a family friend. It's the one I mentioned earlier, the billionaire, and I just go, hey, this is my idea. And he had been kind of watching my journey. I would text him like, hey, check it out. We did $75,000 this month in course sales, and he's texting me, hey, that's impressive and whatever. So I go to him and I say, hey, this is my idea. It's what I want to do. Would you loan me some money to get an engineer and build this thing? And so he gives me $500,000.
Wow.
Um, wasn't cheap. It was definitely not like it's not
It
like,
wasn't
hey,
a gift, is what
yeah,
you're
it wasn't
saying.
a gift. Yeah. There was a lot of pressure behind it. And I went to a family friend as well named Kevin, who, when I told you I loved digital marketing before all this, he was a guy that I knew from church who had been successful in software development, but he had semi-retired. And so I was like, dang, man, I wonder if he'd be interested in building this software. So I call him up and because I remember because my the guy that gave me the 500K, he goes, hey, you know, I'm willing to give you the money, but engineers are not easy to come by and they're very expensive and it's hard to make this work. And so I was at home that night and I was like, man, this sucks. I've got somebody that's willing to give me, you know, $500,000 to start this business and I don't have an engineer. And so I'm laying there in bed and I go and I hadn't seen this guy Kevin in like 10 years. And I go, you know what? I wonder if Kevin, and it just like clicked, you know, I wonder if Kevin would be interested. So I call Kevin, and he had sent his crazy story. His house burned down where we were from in California, and he moved away. That was the last time I'd seen him. He moved to like Vermont. He sold his business, and he bought a local store out in Vermont, and was just running this local store. One of the smartest software engineers I've ever met. He's running this little local store out in Vermont. So I call him up and I'm like, "Hey Kevin, are you interested in programming again?" And he goes, "Ryan, you'll never believe this, but in the last 3 months, so remember I haven't talked to this guy in 10 years. He goes, in the last 3 months, I have been praying for another opportunity to start programming again and get out of this store." And I go, well, I think this is it. And all these like little miracles just lined up, and this goes back to the saying, "I'll make it happen." When you have that faith, when you have that belief and confidence, you'll see miracles line up for this to happen for you. But if you're doubting and you're not, it's really hard to see it. But anyways, so these miracles are lining up, and he says yes. And within 2 weeks, he was full-time programming. He was able to find somebody to lease his store. Like that was a big problem. He's like, I'm 60 hours in this store. And I'm like, shoot, I'll move out there and I'll run the store while you build this thing. Like, let's figure it out. And he's like, no. Let me reach out to this woman who used to work for me. And he reaches out to her and he's like, would you be interested in leasing the store for me? She's like, yeah, absolutely. So she comes within 2 weeks. He's out of the store and full-time programming Chirp. We start programming this thing, and I remember the day he texted me from his phone, and he goes, "Hey, I figured it out. We've got we can now we sent our first text message." And he sent me a text message through the software, and it was like this big breakthrough. I was like, "Oh, we figured it out," you know? And that's like a funny moment because we're like, man, we've done hundreds of millions of texts since then, and it's just a funny. It started with that one text, you know. And so within about 6 months, we had this basic product which could capture leads from Facebook leads and follow up with them, and that was like the core of it. But we were not home service. To go back to your question, we were not
Yeah,
home service specific at the time. We were just, hey, who wants this? Who wants this, right?
right.
And we were selling it to anybody and everybody. We sold it to real estate agents. Some restaurants bought it. Guys that sold e-commerce stuff, like all just hodgepodge of customers, right? And it wasn't working. It was not working at all. I mean, it was okay. I shouldn't say at all. We got it to about $30,000 in monthly recurring revenue, but it was just constantly just whoosh, 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 whoosh.
And it was
People would,
probably difficult too, because like everybody
oh,
has their own way they wanted to probably approach
right.
it. And it
Yep.
was hard for you guys to price, I would think would
Totally.
support that. Yeah, okay. Got
Totally.
it.
So you'd get a real estate agent and he'd be like, well, you know, how do I do this? And I'd be like, well, this dentist over here is doing it like this. And he's like, well, I don't care what the dentist is doing. I want to know what other real estate agents are doing, you know? So is this, you've heard it, everybody's heard it, the niches, the riches are in the niches. It's true, 100% true. And so here's a little side note that
Yeah.
led us into home services, just to help people think outside of the box.
Yeah.
There's a company called Cameo. Have you ever heard of this company, Cameo?
Name sounds so familiar to me, but I
Go
don't know
onto
what they
this
do.
website and there's celebrities, and you can
Okay.
pay them to do like a birthday greeting or you know, congratulations for you know, on your graduation, whatever, just to get a celebrity to say something. And I go on there, and Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank has an offer to do a birthday greeting or whatever on there. And I go, I wonder if I just put in there to tell him to talk about Chirp that he would do it. And so I paid 500 bucks and I get back a commercial basically of Kevin O'Leary saying, hey, email sucks. You should do text messaging. It gets a 98% read rate. He does this great script and he goes, you got to check out my friends over at Chirp. And I was just like, holy cow, I just paid 500 bucks and I got Kevin O'Leary to talk about. So I thought outside of the box. This is the point, is think outside of the box when you're doing marketing and you're early on, you don't have a lot of money to spend. And somebody from home services, a carpet cleaner and an HVAC, I saw my ad with Kevin O'Leary. They signed up for Chirp, and then they started talking to me saying, you've got to integrate with ServiceTitan
Mhm.
and HouseCall Pro. And I said, what does integrate mean? And and then they explained to me like, hey, if this is happening over here, you could tell Chirp to do this. And then I went to my engineer, and he of course was like, oh yeah, we could easily make that build the APIs and build all these connections, and that's when the light like went off. This is after 3 years of struggle of just staying in that 20 to 30,000 range, just trying to figure it out. So once we nailed that, once we figured out that, oh, cool, these guys were doing great with it, right? They're closing more deals, they're talking about us, they're like, this is amazing. And that's when things like the light bulb went off, like, okay, cool. So let's focus, let's drill down and focus on home services because we've got these deep integrations and we'll just go after these guys. And they started especially the carpet cleaner guy, he started doing all kinds of posts and like, you've got to see what I'm doing over here, this and that. And I had a couple of sales guys that weren't really getting it. It wasn't clicking for them, and we were still stuck at that 30,000 range. And so I just said, you know what? I'm gonna get rid of these guys, and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna sell this myself. This is COVID times, working from home, and I'm at 30,000 a month. And I just start going into home service groups and introducing myself and then answering questions. I wasn't soliciting. I wasn't going in saying, hey, you should check this out. I was just organically answering questions, and then they would ask questions back, and I would say, oh, you could do it like this. Here's how you could set that up. And they go, oh, that's really cool. And next thing you know, I'm getting demos booked and I'm selling Chirp from my bedroom. And I took us from 30,000 a month to 100,000 a month for my bedroom.
Wow.
And then the story goes on to, we've got, we hire Justin, if you guys know Justin Judd, who's head of our partnerships now, and now we're pushing $1 million a month. So, it all started from that. We sent a text message.
Talk to me about the
Yeah.
the integration part, because is that what really kind of catapulted you, would you say? Is that one of the events when
One of
you
the major events, because the hardest part in software is adoption. And you've been and we still are solving this problem to this day. But when you're in software, if things aren't, you know, people will stay in a software that they don't like, just because they don't want to bother learning something new. And so it's like when we go to them and say, "Oh, you can do all this stuff," and they go, "Well, I live in ServiceTitan. I live in HouseCall Pro, right? I don't want to have to go over and tell Chirp to do these follow-ups manually, right?" And so once we were able to say, "Hey, you don't have to change anything you're doing now. The software will just automatically know when to start following up and when to stop." And that was the trigger, right? That was the moment where like, "Oh, sweet. I don't have to ditch House Call Pro. I don't have to ditch ServiceTitan. I just keep going and you
right?
and money's going to get bigger." Like,
Yeah,
and
huge.
that was it.
Yeah.
So
Plus, you have instant access, I would think, to all that user base, to some degree, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, we could definitely say like, hey, like we didn't have a partnership in that they'd say,
Got
here's our
it.
list or
Got
anything like that. But it was like, oh, you use Service Titan? Great. Let me show you our integration and how we can help you make more money. So it was a warmer, intro. There was a connection
Yep.
where we had something common, right? Something in common. So
What's your moat, do you think? Like what prevents, and I'm not picking on anyone, whether it be ServiceTitan, House Call Pro, whoever, what prevents them from tomorrow creating something within their own product that does what you do?
Well, they do. They have it. They have competing products. They're there.
Okay.
There's two moats that are really important. Number one, when you are an all-in-one solution, everything for everybody, it's hard to really be really good at one thing.
Yeah.
Right? And we focus 100% of our efforts on lead conversion. And so we are in there every day trying to make it better, right, for lead conversion. And we're not in there part of the time here and part of the time here and part of the time here and part of the time here making this giant thing. So that's number one is we call that best in class, just like we are focused on this one thing. So that's one part of the moat, and it's always an issue. It's always a question like
Sure.
competition. All of that's always happening all the time. I wake up in the middle of the night all the time thinking about this guy's doing this over here. This guy's doing this
Sure.
over here. No, it's just the way it is. One of my buddies said to me, Billy Klein, he goes, every day there's 1,000 ways to die. So you're just gonna have to get used to it. And that clicked for me where it was like everybody's in the same boat all the time. If you're making money, somebody's gonna try to get it. It's just the way it
Yep.
is.
Yep.
So once you accept that, it's much easier to breathe. And then the second moat is people. So we focus heavily. Most of our effort, we have the engineers doing their thing, but most of our effort is in relationships. We go out, we are consistently attempting to create really good relationships with people. And then also, we want to make sure that the people in Chirp are there for the customers because a home service guy doesn't want to know how to do this stuff. He
Right.
doesn't want
Right.
to know how to do software. He wants to just go, yes, it's working. I don't want to think about it, right? And so if he knows that there's a team that cares, that's a lot of times more valuable. Like if we go apples to apples against a bunch of the competition, we can nitpick and go, yeah, we're better here. We're better here at this and this and this and this and this. But those are just things, that's just noise to the contractor. He needs to feel good about who he's doing business with, and that's where we shine. That's our deepest moat is people go, and because my attempt is always I need to get these people to know, like, and trust me first so that whatever I sell, they'll buy, right? And a lot of people come at it just going, well, my product's better. And it's like, no, that's the wrong approach. If they know, like, and trust you, they will buy your product and they will be loyal to you through thick and thin because of you as a person. And so that's been our big moat and our big presence in the space. And you talk to guys like Tommy Mello, he'll say the same. He says, I don't invest in software, I invest in people. If I like the people and I trust the people, and that goes back to how we sold the windshield repair course. That 45-minute webinar, it wasn't here's how the windshield repair business works, and this is that, this is how you do this, and this is how you do. The webinar was, check it out. I used to go door to door and I tell this story, right? And the people go, you know what? I like this guy. I like him. Sure, I can get a windshield repair kit over here. I could learn how to do it on YouTube, but I like this guy and I want to work with him. And then it's game on.
But
So
what's so cool about that is when we talk about home services, that's exactly what home services are doing when they go to work with
with
homeowners is build the know, like, and trust, right? You go coming into someone's home. So it's kind of cool that it all goes full circle.
Well, and I tell that story to explain the owner handshake campaign, which is when somebody books. So, you go online and you book with Wasatch HVAC. I say that because this place in Utah is called the Wasatch Front. All right, Wasatch HVAC. I book, right? Owner handshake. Wouldn't it be great if I, as the owner, I could pick up the phone and call everybody that booked and say, "Thank you so much for booking with me. This is my business. My wife and my kids, we started this, 5 years ago, and we tell this short little story, to get them to know, like, and trust us. If you could do that to everybody, that'd be great, but you can't do that at scale, right? But imagine if you could send a video to every single person that books with that same exact sentiment. So now I'm sending out a video. Hey, my name is Ryan. I'm the owner here at HVAC or at Wasatch HVAC. This is my wife. These are my four kids. started this business 5 years ago with nothing. We've worked hard through this, and we really value the fact that you're willing to give us a shot. This whole thing that's building this know, like, and trust. Now they're going, oh, I like this guy. And now the technician shows up. I like, and it's this whole, we're changing the whole game by saying, we're not selling HVAC, we're selling us. And then the HVAC just happens. So,
Yeah, that's powerful. I want to spend just a few minutes in this next section talking about ROI. Can you give, I'm sure you have a million of them, but can you give me a couple success stories? Like, what are some things that you've seen where they bring in Chirp into their organization, some success stories related to it?
yeah, sure. We just had a couple of big ones. We had one that we did a case study. I'm not yet going to share the name of the company, but
Sure.
we increased their monthly. They did $1 million extra in a month because of this was from estimate rehash. So really dialed in estimate follow-up campaigns. We've had instances where people increased their conversion rate on Google Leads by or sorry, not Google Leads, on their website form fill leads by 8%, which was like $90,000 in a month
Wow.
additional. Sometimes we talk about 4, 5, 6, 8%, and you go, well, on a $30 million company, that's a lot of money. We had one guy doing one of our big ones is abandoned calls. So, businesses miss calls all the time. And so we can sense that. Chirp can sense when a call is abandoned and immediately follow up, start a conversation through text and invite them to book. And what happens is most of the time they don't even ever end up ever even having to get on the call. They just click the link to book. And so there's no human interaction. We had one plumber who did $200,000 his first week in doing abandoned calls. Reviews, we've had somebody recently report, and we get tons and tons of this, but somebody recently reported that they like 4x'd the number of reviews they were getting. Because and there's more to just sending a text. Thank you for doing business with us. Will you leave us a review? We're starting and seeding the idea of a review early on.
Mm.
So like even in the owner handshake campaign, we encourage you to say, I'm really looking forward to providing you with 5-star service today. Like we're putting the idea in their head early on in the game to get the review. Lots and lots of stories like that. Like
Yeah.
I would say in the hundreds of millions of dollars of, increased revenue across our companies. So.
That's so important. I had one of those junk companies come out and take some stuff that I had, and as soon as the young kids came up, they said, "Hey, if we perform a good service for you, are you open to leaving us a review?" And he asked me like right up front, and I was like,
Oh, that's
I
great.
hadn't had that happen too many times. Well, what ended up happening is they did a phenomenal job,
Yeah.
really friendly, priced it fair, did it fast, came back at the end. Not only did I leave a review, he was taking pictures of me, which I don't normally
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
with the workers because I felt so good about the service and they were such nice guys. I wanted to help them out.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
so it's like
100%.
amazing, how that transition just by them playing it out right.
For whatever reason, leaving a review is like a pain. And if you
Yeah.
ask it in a way that's like, hey, you're doing me this really big favor, it makes it like seem hard for the customer even more. And so you want to approach it with that exact same sentiment, that exact idea of, hey, if I'm able to provide you with this, like, and then they feel like now I owe you the 5-star review.
Yeah.
And that's what the feeling we need to get out of them is that, oh man, they did such a great job. I feel obligated at this point in a good way. We don't want them to feel like
Yeah.
guilty,
Good way. Yeah.
but like, man, they went so far above and beyond. I'd be a jerk not to leave a review at this point, right? And if we wait all the way to the end and just say, hey, leave us a review, we've missed a lot of opportunities to really increase that conversion.
I love that. I got two things on this. One is, what would your advice be to someone who says, "Hey, we're already following up, we're good," and they just leave it at that? Because I hear that a lot. Like, "Hey, we're already doing a good job of following up, we're good, we don't need anything else."
Following up, you might think you're doing enough follow
Mm.
up. Nobody's doing enough. If you're doing especially if you're doing manually, you're not following up anywhere near enough. Um, the, what do they say? There's a lot of studies. People argue some it's 12 touch points, some it's 18. But let's just assume 12 to 18 touch points is where you get maximum conversion. Okay. So here's what we say. We say, sure, okay, all right. You're following up and you're making money. Great. Do you have 100% close rate? No, I have an 80% close rate. Okay, well then you have 20% of opportunity here. So until you're at 100%, don't talk to me about I'm doing enough, right? And nobody's at 100%.
Sure.
And so there's always room for improvement. We can always do better, and we can set those goals and we can say, I have a 50% close rate. No, you have a 50% opportunity rate. You have 50% of people that aren't closing. Let's try to chip away at those. And if we can get it to 55, 60, 65, I mean, how much better off you're going to be, especially if you're not putting any more effort than you're already doing right now.
Yeah.
So,
I,
yeah.
I have one other thing. You mentioned about um, the system can kind of pretty much handle everything all the way to booking. And this segues into our next conversation about AI. But before I get there, one of the pushbacks I believe I hear occasionally is, well, with AI nowadays, it is definitely speeding up tasks and it's good for admin stuff, but you can't take away the human element. And if it's going all the way to booking, you're taking away the human element, and that's how we're going to stay competitive because you're still getting to talk to Mabel who answers the phone or whoever.
Yeah.
What's your thought process around that?
Yeah, so it is a scary thought, right? Where it's like, how do I maintain that down home feel while scaling my business? And AI offers some really awesome scalability tools. But yeah, what's the question? How do I make sure I still, because everybody wants their HVAC guy, and when you're small, it's easy to be that's my HVAC guy, and it's easy, right? But scaling authenticity is difficult. At the end of the day, we're going into an AI world, and you're not going to be able to keep up if you don't adopt. And so my mindset around AI and the way we're headed, and Chirp 2.0 is all about AI and how this works, and is scaling your authenticity as a human being. And the only way really you're going to be able to do that is to learn AI well enough to train it to do the things that you would do. And basically, so what I would say before, when we were talking about texting, and they go, well, I didn't write the text, it's not authentic. We go, well, you wrote it first. Just because you sent it to 100 people doesn't mean that it's not authentic. It's still your message and your thing. Just like when I did the webinar and sent that to,
Right.
thousands and thousands of people. I did it once. I recorded the webinar once, but it was able to produce, a whole lot for me. The next era is, how do I train my agents so that it's still my training and me as a person being put out into the world through AI. And so that's really the only way I see a company adopting AI and maintaining authenticity, is by learning it well enough to be able to say, yeah, this is, it's me within that training. Because no, there's no real AI. AI is not a real thing.
Right.
It's just a bunch of, data. And so if you're training that data yourself, you trained it in the way that you would do business, and now it's just turning you into a superhuman. It's turning the way that you would talk and the way you do things into the ability to express it to 1,000 people at one time.
Yeah.
And so it's just an amplifier if you do it right.
Yeah, I love your answer. I feel like your answer was authentic, frankly, using the word authenticity, because people don't like to hear it because they do love to hear, yeah, we're people and it's going to always be people. But the truth is, if you want to scale, there's only so much. You're just not going to be able to keep up with everybody
Yeah.
else. So I know I'm running out of time here, so I'm going to move forward to a couple things. I'd love to know in Chirp 2.0, and I
Yeah.
want to integrate that with the AI. Where are you taking things, and what should we expect to see in the home services space going forward?
Well, you're one of the first to hear it, Tyler. So this is we are embracing heavily the AI agent idea, and we're
Yeah.
creating an agentic network. And now we're stepping away from campaigns and I want these static follow-ups and this thing. And what we're doing is we're creating individual agents, and you can look at these agents as employees in your business that are trained to do one very specific thing for each task that you're trying to accomplish, and then those agents are managing that task with precision. So we talk about like speed to lead. We train an agent who is an Angie Leads specialist. Okay. That Angie
Wow.
Lead specialist, their job is to only make sure that Angie leads are being contacted within 30 seconds and that they're being followed up with consistently. You're not going to go build a campaign. You're going to say follow up with the leads for X amount of time. And it's going to use data over millions of text messages that have been sent. And it's going to learn what's the best thing to say at the right times in the follow up. So you're not saying, day one, send this text message. Day three, send this text message. Day five, send this text message. You're saying, agent, follow up with these leads for 14 days. And you can choose the level of aggressiveness. If you say, I want to follow up every day, I want to follow up every few days. And what's going to happen is, let's say you do a 14-day, you say, I want to follow up with my estimates for 14 days. And I want to do it every 2 to 3 days. Every 2 days, the agent will look at the past conversation and where it's been and decide what to say next. So that way, like if they were to say, um, "Hey, I need to talk to my wife," right? We don't want to just send a generic, "Hey, how are you doing?" Just following up on that thing. We want to say, "Hey, did you get a chance to talk to your wife?" Right? And so it's going to read that and know, and it's going to craft the message and then send it. Or it's going to say, you know what? It's going to be better for me to send an email right now or a recorded voicemail. And it's going to decide throughout that 14 days what's best based on past data. So we're moving from a static drip campaign world into agents that are smart and learning and following up in a more, personalized way.
So will there be like how many agents do you envision? Like, will there be an agent if it comes through a Google Ads? There might be an agent that's specialized for how to handle that, or is it more of just like one agent
So
is all encompassing?
there are agent categories, and then within those agent categories are individual agents. So now we say speed to lead. So we have our Angie lead specialist, we have our Thumbtack lead specialist,
Wow.
we have our website form lead specialist, we have our Google LSA lead specialist, our Facebook lead specialist, and each of these are designed to do that one task, right? And then we have estimate guys, agents, and we say, okay, if the estimate is for this business type, this job, this business unit, this job type, this amount, this is the agent that's specialized for that. All these various different filters, they're specialized for those specific things. We're even going as far as like having a gratitude specialist. So, okay, we want to make sure gratitude for me is like the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure you have the ability to express gratitude at different levels throughout the customer journey. And so you have a gratitude specialist. Okay, if anybody spends $10,000 or more with me, this agent knows to send a gift basket to that company. Or they only spent, anybody that spends up to 5,000, we're going to send a gift card, or we're going to do, these various little ways to express gratitude. And you have the review agent who's going to follow up and ask for the review and then do it in a way that's,
Sure.
congruent with the rest of the conversation. Just all these different steps along the customer journey. Pre-qualification guy, he's going to help you get pre-qualified, at the right times. All kinds of different.
And Ryan, those agents are learning. Each individual agent is it learning and improving? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, because we've got data over hundreds of millions of text messages that AI will be tapping into.
Wow, that's awesome. That's powerful. So when does Chirp 2.0, when does this become accessible to
Oh
people?
my gosh, I'm hoping and praying that in 2 to 3 months. So I'm saying that, and my engineer, that's to put pressure on my engineer. He's pretty confident, but we're hoping that our first iteration of this will be 2 to 3 months.
So
So
basically, you just put me on the banned list for your
right.
engineer. Basically, is what. Anything else in AI before we move? We're almost ready to wrap up here, but anything else in AI that's worth mentioning for home
Yes,
service business owners?
just for people that are looking into it, it's like don't be afraid of it. It's happening, so it's like why be afraid? The people that make the most money are the ones that adopt things quickly and move and learn. And so don't be afraid of it. It's not taking over the world. Embrace it. It's going to cause pain and it's going to cause, some changes and shifts, but it's improvement. It's good. It's all good. Just like the internet was good, same exact idea. It's just now you can scale your authenticity through AI if you understand it well enough. You're not saying, "Hey, go say whatever you want." You're saying, "I want it to perform in a certain way," and now you're creating a version of you and how you do things. And so don't be afraid of it. So.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, I want to end up with last two things here. One is what's one feature or what's one thing we could give to home service business owners right now that they should do either in their follow-up or in automation that maybe you're seeing people not do that might have an impact to their business?
Man, I go back to owner handshake. That's like my baby
Okay.
right now. I love owner handshake because I'm all about authenticity and people are all about selling the product. Facts tell, stories sell. If you tell facts about, I personally as a homeowner, I don't care about what system I have. I care that cold air is coming in or hot air. That's all I care about.
Right.
So anybody can produce that, right? Your only unique thing that you have is you and your story and you as a person. Get that, use that as the differentiator, as the I know we're almost out of time, but back in my early days when I told you in that 10 years I did lots of stuff. I did stand-up comedy in that time too. And one night when I was hanging out with Pauly Shore, he gave me the best advice I've ever had in my life. I said, how do I want to be I want to be a stand-up comedian. What's a good way to, and he goes, nobody's going to care about your opinion until they care about you. And so your jokes need to only be about you at the beginning. If you tell jokes about airplane food, they're not going to laugh. I could go up and do the airplane food joke and they'll laugh because they love me already. But if you go up and do the same joke, they won't laugh. And so until they care about you, they're not going to care about your jokes. And so until people care about you, they're not going to care about how good you are at HVAC, right?
Yeah, that's
And
powerful.
so that owner handshake really gives you that opportunity to introduce yourself, tell your story, and get them to become raving fans.
Yeah, that's a huge one. Okay, last thing, your mantra. Do you want to share your mantra as we wrap up?
Yeah, so it's part in part the if it's going to happen, it's because I'm going to make it happen. But I was raised, I'm a religious person. I'm a follower of Jesus, and I have some funny beliefs around some stuff. But I truly believe we are children. We are divine creations. We're children of God, and I've always had that confidence. If I'm a child of God, there's no, I don't need any other accolades. I already am what I need to be. And so I don't look for external validation. I don't, that's, I dropped out of high school. So I don't need to be told that I've accomplished these things. And I already have the highest degree, which is being of divine creation. Just saying that I am a child of God is what gives me a level of confidence that allows me to go into any room, to talk to anybody, to partner with guys like Tommy Mello, to get money from billionaires, to build software companies. I've never had a problem walking into these rooms. I've never felt intimidated, and that's comes from that confidence that comes from that.
That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. That's personal too, so I appreciate that. Your website, Chirp, CHIIRP.com.
That's
So
right.
there's two I's. Guys, be sure to check it out. Ryan, I can't thank you enough for your time. You're awesome. You're an amazing guy, and I'm glad you're having so much success. You deserve it, man. I can tell you're just like a doer. You've got the grit. You got the grit in the show name, man.
Yeah. Tyler, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on. This has been great. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care, Ryan.
Have a great day.
Welcome to Profit and Grit. It's profit and grit, not luck and a wish. From the wrench to the spreadsheet, we're stacking our chips. Slow season hits, man, we tighten the ship. It's